Ayubowan. So today we're going to focus about talking on modals. It's same as the previous lesson, but the only difference is we're going to have a look at modals being used for negative statements. All right. So, in terms of modals being used in the negative form, this is made using not or its contraction nt. Okay. So, example, let me just quickly draw up a quick example for you. So, can, it can be cannot, or we can say can't. Okay, so this is a contracted form. We omit to when the negative of need to is used, but keep to when the negative of ought to is used. So let's have a look at some examples and then I'll explain to you what it means. The verb that follows has to be in its base form. Let's have a look at some examples so that I explain that to you more in detail, right? You must not or mustn't watch. Now, this is what we mean by the verb that follows it has to be in the base form, right? So, you can write must not using not, which is the negative form, or you can use the contracted form. Now, when this is being written, right, you have to make sure that the verb is in the base form, right? You mustn't or must not watch the television when there is lightning or thunder, okay? The students should not or shouldn't be in the gym. He need not or needn't buy. Now let's have a look at this one here. The need to one, okay? Now if we take the positive form of this sentence, right? He, can you say he need? No, we have to say he needs. Can we just say he needs buy? Right, let's have a look at it. He needs buy a gift for her. Can we actually say that? No, the to is missing there. He needs to buy a gift for her. So the to is there before the verb. But when we write the negative sentence, he need not buy a gift for her, right? Need not buy. Can you see the rule here? We omit to when the negative of need to is used, right? So when you have a sentence with need to in the positive form, when we write the negative sentence, we omit the to, we don't write it, okay? And we write the negative sentence saying, he need not buy a gift for her. So that is what was meant, saying we omit to when the negative of need to is used, but keep to when the negative of ought to is used. Now let us have a look at this, okay? Jake ought not to lose his spectacles so often. So you can see, even though ought not, right, is a negative form, we keep to in the same place as it was in the positive sentence. Alright? So Jake ought not to lose his spectacles so often. So the verb following it is in the base form again as well. Right? So let us have a look at the rule one more time. Right? The negative form is usually made up by adding not or in the contracted form nt. We omit to when we change need to into a negative sentence. But when you write ought to in the negative form, we do not omit the to. And the other fact that you need to remember is that whatever the base form that follows along with it whatever the verb that follows along with it remains in the base form, right? Alright, the word not appears just after all modals except can, okay? In the case of can, the word not is attached to its ending, okay? So let's have a look at it. May not, might not, ought not to do not have the contracted forms as well. So now let's have a look at what I was talking about, right? Now the word not appears after most of the verbs. I mean just after all the modals, okay? Except the can. What it means is this. Now when you write may not, okay, so not is there at the end. Should not. Might not. So they are separately, right? Could not. But when it comes to can, we don't write it separately. It is just as an ending of the same word like this. Can you see? It's written together. Cannot. We don't say cannot. We just say cannot. Okay? And the contracted form is can't. Not can't, can't. Okay? You don't necessarily need to write this in capital letters. You could just write it in simple. Okay, same goes for could not, but can you see it's separated just like these, okay? And the contracted form is couldn't. What you need to remember is that these words in red, okay, may not, might not, ought not to, do not have contracted forms, okay? There's nothing like saying mayn't. Do we have such things? No, that is wrong. We don't have such contracted forms, right? So for may not, might not, ought not to, we don't have a contracted form, right? We do not use any contracted form for those modals. Now, meaning not being able to or not allowed to or not possible to do something, we say cannot, which the contracted form is can't. Not able to, not allowed to, not possible, used in the past tense. Okay, this is in the present tense. I cannot come there. I cannot use your pencil, present tense. But if being not able to, not allowed to, not possible, and when you want to use it in the past tense, could not or couldn't. All right? So I hope it's clear now. All the modals except can has not at the end. Okay? The word not appears just after all the modals, but remember, and it's not attached. Okay? But remember, in can only, it is attached at the end. Okay? So the other point is may not, might not, ought not to does not have any contracted form. So we have cannot, contracted form can't, could not in the past tense, not being able to do something, contracted form couldn't. Alright, let's have a look at some more modals. Must not, that means you're not allowed to do it at all, okay? You must not sit there, you must not drink water in the class, okay? So that means you're not allowed to do it. Must not, contracted form, mustn't. The same rule applies here. You don't necessarily need to have it from capital letters. You can just have it from the simple letters, okay? Not necessary, need not. Contracted form, put them together, need not, needn't. Does not intend to or you refuse, okay? You don't intend to or you refuse to do something. I shall not do it, okay? Shall not, shan't. Next one, not advisable to. I think you should not go for the party today. You're just advising them. It is advisable not to do it, right? So, not advisable, should not, put together, shouldn't. Does not intend to or refuse, will not, won't. So, you can see when this changes to this, we don't say willn't, okay? Won't. Won't. Does not intend to, refuses to in the past tense. It's like cannot, can't, okay? Could not, couldn't. The same way, will not, won't, but when you're using it in the past tense, would not, contracted form, wouldn't, okay? So you have the meaning of each of the modals and the contracted form of those modals. Let's have a look at it more in detail. When the negative form of modal is used in present participle, the base form of the verb to be is used as follows. So let's have a look at what I'm talking about, okay? So you have the subject. The structure of it is that you have the subject, you have the modal, okay? If it is not or the contracted form, be plus the present participle. Let's have a look at it, right? She is the subject, should is the modal, and then the negative form shouldn't. Be taking, present participle, right? Shouldn't be taking such long tea breaks, right? So basically it is the ing form of it. So all you have to remember is that it is the ing form. She shouldn't be taking such long tea breaks. When you're writing the negative form of the modal, right, you would be writing it when you're using the ing for it, right? You should be writing it with the be verb in use, right? Sohanya won't. So this again is the subject, will not, won't, be competing for the post of head prefect. Okay, so again, you can see the structure. Subject, modal, negative form, that is not or the contracted form. Be plus the present participle, which we mean the verb and the ing form of it. Okay, so you need to remember the sentence form or the structure of it before you actually start writing it. Okay. Moving on. When the negative form of the modals is used in past participle, the base form of the verb to have is used. Okay, so now we are writing it in the past participle. If so, you have the subject, you have the modal, you have the negative form, you write have plus the past participle. Okay. Remember, must not and shall not cannot go with have plus the past participle. Now, this is the normal form, but remember, must not and shall not will not have this specific form where we use it with have plus the past participle. Alright? So, let's have a look at an example. You need not have worried. So, when it is the past participle, then it is have. When it is the present participle, what do we use? Be. When it is the past participle, what do we use? Have. Right? You needn't have worried about my brother, Dad. Okay? Dad had worried about my brother. So, that is the reason, right? So, Dad had worried about the brother. So, he's telling, oh, you needn't have worried about my brother, Dad. Okay? Kim is the subject, modal plus the negative form. Kim couldn't have written that anonymous letter. Okay? So, again, have plus the past participle. So, what had happened? Someone had written an anonymous letter. It means there's no name. We don't know who wrote it. The speaker doesn't believe King did it. So, basically, when we don't believe in it, when the speaker does not believe in that action, they can say, Kim couldn't have written that anonymous letter. Okay? Right. So, basically, what you need to remember is the form of it. Right? Again, if it is in the past participle, subject plus modal plus the negative form, have plus the past participle. What you need to remember is must not and shall not cannot go with have plus the past participle. So, these two cannot go with have plus the past participle, right? Okay, moving on. Passive verbs with the negative form of modals are used as follows. So, this is what we're going to have a look at. Passive verbs. How are they used with the negative form of modals? You have the subject, you have the modal, you have the negative form of it, the be verb plus the past participle. Let's have a look at it. He shouldn't neglect his work. That is the active voice. Okay. So here, who shouldn't neglect his work? He. Okay. So this goes to the end. But if it is not needed, you can omit it. So, his work shouldn't be neglected. If you want that bit, you should say, his work shouldn't be neglected by him, that it doesn't make any sense. Okay. So, his work shouldn't be neglected. So, the subject is there. Okay. The modal is there. The negative form of it. The be verb plus the past participle. So, when you are writing passive verbs with the negative form of modals, you must write the subject plus the modal, the negative form of it, plus the be verb, plus the past participle. Alright. Find out why B is correct and A is wrong. Now, I think we have done a lot of forms and the uses of it, right? Now, we need to check and see which ones are correct, which ones are wrong, right? She must not to visit him because he has COVID-19. Okay. Now, do you need the to when you're writing it? The negative form, remember, we don't need it. So, she mustn't or must not visit him. The base form and the structure is correct. So, she must not or mustn't visit him because he has COVID-19. Clear? So, it's like the need, the positive one, which I did here. You don't need the to. Okay? Right. Let's have a look at the second one. Why is this correct? Why is this wrong? You shouldn't making fun of your friends all the time. Now this is like the present participle. If you're using the present participle, what is the structure? Subject plus modal plus the negative form plus the be verb plus the present participle. So let's have a look at it. You shouldn't make or you shouldn't be making. Okay? You shouldn't make or you shouldn't be making fun of your friends all the time, right? So now this is with the present participle. But if you want it in the negative form, then you can just use you shouldn't make fun. You don't necessarily need the ing form. In the present participle, you can have you shouldn't make. Then, of course, it doesn't follow this one, the normal structure. Clear? So, you shouldn't make or you shouldn't be making fun of your friends all the time. Alright, next one. Why is B correct and why is A wrong? Someone might not seen you when you waved to him. Or someone might not have seen you when you waved to him. So, what happens here is this is the past participle structure, right? So, then of course you have the subject, you have the modal, you have the not ONT plus have plus the past participle. So, someone might not have seen you. The have is missing in the first one. So, therefore, the first one is wrong and the second one is correct. Okay? Alright. Why is 4B correct and 4A wrong? Okay? The checkbook cannot signed by anyone but Mr. Jovi. The checkbook cannot be signed by anyone but Mr. Jovi. Right? So the structure is if you have cannot, it should have be signed. Okay? The checkbook cannot be signed by anyone. Okay? So, when you have by, you know that this is working out to be a passive voice sentence, right? So, if it is a passive voice sentence, then what is the structure? Subject plus modal plus be plus the past participle. So, here you can see the structure, right? Subject plus the modal, which is the negative, plus the be verbs, plus the past participle. So, the checkbook cannot be signed. You can see that it is in the past participle by anyone but Mr. Jovi. Okay, so that works along with the passive verbs being used along with modals in a negative form, right? Right. Fill in the blanks with the correct modals in the boxes. So here you have two models. Positive and negative, you have to complete the gaps. Now I'm going to give you some time. Let me read it out for you and then you can look at it and complete the gaps. Right. So I'll read it through and try to figure out should it be the positive or the negative form, right? You blank be meticulous, but you blank be finicky, right? Meticulous is looking at every detail. Finicky is you're very fussy about everything. So which words go along with these? Second one, she blank stay with Simpson because Simpson's relatives are staying over. She blank stay at Twinkle Villa, which is affordable. Okay, so which one is can and which one is can't? The second one, Sanaya blank splurging on clothes and cosmetics every 2 weeks. Right, what you need to remember here is it's not necessary for you to write caps lock. You can write simple letters, right? It is not capital letters, right? Okay, moving on to the third one. Sanaya blank splurging on clothes and cosmetics every 2 weeks, okay? So splurge or splurging means you're spending freely, extravagantly. You're not thinking about it, okay? She blank trying to save some money. Should be or shouldn't be comes which one comes to which blank. I blank tell anyone what you told me. I blank keep it a secret between us. So shall, shan't. Okay. We blank let him go out at night we blank let him go out at night on her own in a foreign country. Alright, so moving on to the next one. We blank let her go out at night on her own in a foreign country. They blank gone with her. Okay, so which word comes to which gap? So I hope you would have completed it. Let's have a look at the answers. Ought to, ought not to. Can't, can. Shouldn't be, should be. Shan't, shall. Wouldn't have, would have. Okay, so let's have a look at it. You blank ought to. You have to look at every detail, but you ought not to be finicky. You have to look at every detail, but not complain about everything. Okay? She can't stay. Can she actually stay with the Simpson? No, she can't stay with Simpson because Simpson's relatives are staying over. So there's no space. What can she do? She can stay at Twinkle Villa. So let's see if those are the answers. Ought, ought not to, can't and can. Right, moving on. We blank let her go out at night on her own in a foreign country. They blank gone with her. Okay, so I hope you would have completed it. Now, let us have a look at the answers. You ought to be meticulous. That means you should look at every detail, but you shouldn't be really fussy. You ought not to be finicky. She can't stay with Simpson. Why? Because Simpson's relatives are staying over. So they've come and they're staying over, so there's no room. So she can stay at Twinkle Villa, which is affordable. Sanaya shouldn't be splurging. Okay, that means she shouldn't be extravagantly spending on clothes and cosmetics every 2 weeks. She should be. The positive thing is she should be trying to save some money. I shan't. That means you're not going to tell anyone the secret. I shall keep it. I shall keep a secret between us. Next one. We wouldn't have. Let her go out at night on her own in a foreign country. They would have. Right? So, because it's in a foreign country, we wouldn't have let her gone out all alone. So, it's better if they would have gone with her. So, here are the answers and double check and see if you've got the same. Okay. All right. Circle the letters of the correct sentences, right? So sometimes there could only be one sentence, or there could be 2 sentences, or all 3 could be correct as well. So circle the letters of the sentences which are actually correct. You needn't make lunch reservations at the hotel. You needn't made lunch reservations at the hotel. You needn't to make lunch reservations at the hotel. Now here, I'm going to say A is only correct. Why is that? When you have need to, that is the positive form. But remember, when it is in the negative form, we don't need to write to. So this is incorrect. The next one is, it should be followed by the base form of the verb. So made is not the base form of it. Therefore, that is also wrong. Okay, so I want you to think about each of these sentences. Why is it correct? Why is it wrong? So needn't, make, that is correct. Followed by the base form, negative model, perfectly fine. Let's have a look at the second one. The aggravated gathering couldn't restrain, so the riot police had to be brought in. The aggravated gathering couldn't restraining, so the riot police had to be brought in. The aggravated gathering couldn't be restrained, so the riot police had to be brought in. Think about which sentence form is correct and then tick and see which one is right and which one is wrong. All right. Third one. He can't be cleaned his kitchen so soon. He can't clean his kitchen so soon. He can't have cleaned his kitchen so soon. Students who came late shouldn't be allowing to enter the hall. Students who come late shouldn't be allowed to enter the hall. Students who come late shouldn't allowed to enter the hall. Next one. The assistant ought not to have made a decision without consulting the chairperson. The assistant ought not have made a decision without consulting the chairperson. The assistant ought not to have made a decision without consulting the chairperson. Next one. Jen and Anne would not consoled by anyone. Jen and Anne would not be consoled by anyone. Jen and Anne would not console by anyone. So think about the passive verb form. She might not attended the concert because of a busy schedule. She might not be attending the concert because of her busy schedule. She might not be attended the concert because of her busy schedule. The next one. The shopping complex won't be charging parking fees until the end of next month. The shopping complex won't be charged parking fees until the end of next month. The shopping complex won't have charged parking fees until the end of next month. The last two. Lenny may not like the orders her manager gives her, but she still carries them out. Lenny mayn't like the orders her manager gives her, but she still carries them out. Lenny may not like the orders her manager gives her, but she still carries them out. The last one, these containers mustn't be keeping near the stove. These containers mustn't kept near the stove. These containers mustn't be kept near the stove. All right. So take a few minutes. If you haven't completed them, please complete the sentences on your own before we actually discuss the answers, okay? See if you've done all the questions. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Just don't wait until I do it and then write the answers, because that's not going to help you. Right, so here are the answers. 1A, 2C, 3C, 4B, 5A, 6B, 7B, 8A, 9A, 10C. So I think we did this together. We had A, so we've done that. Let's have a look at the second one. The aggravated gathering couldn't restrain. Okay. Can you say couldn't restrain? If it is in the past participle, what is the form? Think about it. Couldn't, restraining. If it is in the present participle, then what is the form? It needs to have. So here, if it is the present participle, then of course you know it is the be verb has to be there. If it is past, have needs to be there. Okay. If it is in the passive, the aggravated gathering couldn't be restrained, so the riot police had to be brought in, okay? Then it is the be verb. So we know, looking at the context, let's have a look at it. Okay. Coming back to our theories. So this is with the present participle, as I told you. This is with the past participle, but must and shall will not go with have. And then this is the passive one. Okay. So coming back to our question. Okay. Here, this is the passive form. So then, couldn't be restrained. So the correct answer is C. Let's see. We've got it correct. Next one. He can't be cleaned his kitchen. He can't clean his kitchen. He can't have cleaned his kitchen. So if there is be verb, it needs to be with the present participle. Can't cleaned, we can't have such thing. So if it is in the past participle, then have needs to be there. So the correct one is he can't have cleaned his kitchen so soon. So C is the answer. Students who come late shouldn't be allowing to enter the hall. Students who come late shouldn't be allowed to enter the hall. Students who come late shouldn't allowed to enter. Okay, so shouldn't be allowing. Do you think that's correct? Students who come late shouldn't be allowing to enter the hall. Can we say that? No, we can't. Students who come late shouldn't be allowed. Yes, you could say that in the passive form, right? Passive voice. This one here. When you're using with passive verbs, right, then you could definitely use it along with the be verb, right? So students who come late shouldn't be allowed to enter the hall. So C and B are the correct ones. We've got that. Next one. The assistant ought not to have made a decision. Ought not have made a decision. Ought not to has made a decision. When it is the past participle, it should be ought, not should come with to. That we learnt as a rule. So this doesn't have it, so that is wrong. The assistant ought not to have made a decision. Have plus the past participle, correct? Has, you can't, it should be have plus the past participle, right? So therefore A is correct. Jen and Anne would not consoled, would not be consoled, would not console. So this again is using it along with passive verbs. So Jen and Anne would not be consoled. The be should be there when you're using it with the passive verbs. So A and B. She might not attended the concert. She might not be attending the concert. She might not be attended. So you can't say not be attended because if it is along with the past participle, then it has to be have. She might not be attending, that's fine with the present participle. She might not attended, again, it's wrong, it needs to have, right? So the only correct answer is B. The shopping complex won't be charging, won't be charged, won't have charge. So when there is have, you can't say charge, it has to be the past participle. If it is in the past participle, then it has to have. If it is in the present participle, then of course it's fine. It is a subject plus the modal plus the negative form plus be plus the past participle. So A is correct. So 7 and 8, B and A, we've got it. Next one. Lenny may not like, mayn't like, may not liked. Okay. So mayn't, there is nothing like that. That is completely incorrect. May not like. We don't have it with the D form, so therefore A is the only correct one. May not like. Because it has to be in the followed by the base form of the verb. So liked is not the base form. So that is also incorrect. These containers mustn't be keeping, mustn't kept, mustn't be kept. Okay. So when you are writing it along with passive verbs, right, you don't say mustn't be keeping, right? Mustn't kept, again you can't use mustn't be kept, and that is what is correct. Okay. So it is A and C. There we go. We've had a look at all the sentences. Why it's correct, okay? If that is correct, then why are the others wrong? We've also discussed that bit. Okay. So, rewrite the sentences in the passive voice. Now, I'm going to read out the sentence and I want you to rewrite it in passive voice. You ought not to dispose these newspapers and magazines. The board can't dismiss Leslie without. All right. Rewrite the sentences in the passive voice. Let's have a look at the first one. You ought not to dispose these newspapers and magazines. The board can't dismiss Leslie without a good reason. The foreigner could not eat the spicy meat served at the restaurant. So I want you to pause the video and go through these three sentences and rewrite them in the passive voice. Moving on. He might not ask Stella to explain her whereabouts yesterday. The boys needn't carry the heavy saddlebags and pillars. The teacher shouldn't discourage her from doing sports. Again, pause the video for a few minutes and rewrite the sentences in passive voice. Let's have a look at the first one, okay? So, these newspapers and magazines ought not to be disposed. Okay. The second one. Leslie can't be dismissed by the board without a good reason. Let's have a look at the third one. The spicy meat served. Let me just rewrite it properly. The spicy meat served at the restaurant could not be eaten by the foreigner. Okay. The next one. Stella might not be asked to explain her whereabouts yesterday. Number 5. The heavy saddlebags and pillars need not or needn't be carried by the boys. And the last one, she shouldn't be discouraged from doing sports by her teacher. So, we have had a look at all 6 sentences, right? These newspapers and magazines ought not to be disposed. Leslie can't be dismissed by the board without a good reason. The spicy meat served at the restaurant could not be eaten by the foreigner. Stella might not be asked to explain. Here, carried by the boys, right? Needn't be carried by the boys. Shouldn't be discouraged. So you can see the form of using passive verbs as we had a look at previously. Okay, so the subject, the modal, negative form be plus the past participle, and that is exactly what we did in all 6 sentences. Right, let's have a look at the next activity. Underline the mistakes in the verb forms in the conversation. Fill in the blanks with the correct verbs, right? So here in the conversation between Paula and Jack, there are some incorrect verb forms. What you have to do is rewrite them in the gaps. So you don't have gaps obviously at home. You don't have this structure. So in your notebook, write the correct form, right? Please bear in mind that this is an extract from Grammar Builder. Let's have a look at it. Jack, you're using your handphone while driving. You mustn't breaking the law. You needn't worry. I can drive perfectly well with one hand on the wheel. You ought to be using a hands-free kit so you won't endangering our lives. The hands-free kits aren't reliable. All my friends say so. So, moving on. I can't understand why you listen to your friends than to the law. Just last week, a celebrity and her companion suffered massive internal injuries in a road accident. It is possible that they might not live, and this is all because of her chauffeur. Chauffeur is the person who drove her, okay? The police say he shouldn't answer his handphone when it rang. So handphone is the mobile, right? The news reporter also says that it's not just dialing a number or holding a handphone that causes car accidents. When you're talking on the phone, you can't concentrate it fully on the road. I really think it's about time the law ruled that any motorist caught holding a handphone while driving will not allowed to drive for a month. That should make lawbreakers like you take notice. Okay, so the conversation was between Paula and Jack, and they were talking about breaking the laws while driving. Okay, so go through it and tell me which ones do you think are wrong. You wouldn't have a driver to take you around if I got caught. That needn't bother me. At least I wouldn't lying on a hospital bed somewhere because of your silly ways. Okay? So think about which verbs should be changed. Which ones are wrong? Okay? So here are the answers. Mustn't breaking, mustn't break. Won't endangering, won't endanger or won't be endangering. Shouldn't answered, shouldn't have answered. Can't concentrated should be changed into can't concentrate. Will not allowed needs to be changed into will not be allowed. Wouldn't lying, wouldn't be lying. Okay, so I hope you've got all your answers correct in this question. So let us go back and see what have we done today, right? So we were looking at modals being used for negative statements, right? We were looking at the different structures. We were looking at the meanings of certain modals and how it is used with the to, or is it without to, right? Should we have be, should we have, should we have has? So we're looking at the form of it more in detail. We looked at all the rules and we did lots and lots of practice questions. So with that, we come to the end of the lesson, modals being used for negative statements.